How can you greet a client politely and professionally in English? In today's class, you'll learn useful phrases like, may I help you? And could I offer you some water? As well as professional titles like Mr., Miss, and Attorney. We'll also practice using modal verbs like can, could, may, and would to sound polite in client meetings. Let's look at what you will learn in today's lesson. First, you will learn how to use polite phrases to welcome clients. These are expressions like, may I help you? Would you like a seat? Could I offer you some water? We use these phrases at the very beginning of a meeting to make clients feel comfortable, respected, and cared for. Second, you will practice how to address clients with professional titles. In English, we often use titles such as Mr., Miss, Attorney, or Counselor. Choosing the correct title shows respect and professionalism. We will also learn how to ask, how may I address you? So you can always be sure you're using the right form. Finally, we will focus on applying modal verbs for politeness. Can, could, may, and would. These small words change the tone of your sentences. For example, instead of saying, sign here, you can say, could you please sign here? Instead of sit down, you can say, would you like to sit down? By the end of this lesson, you will know how to use these modal verbs to make your request and offers sound polite and professional. So today's class is about building respect and professionalism in your first contact with clients through polite phrases, correct titles, and polite grammar. Let's begin today's class with a story. Imagine this situation. A new client, Mr. Ramirez, arrives at your office for the first time. You stand, walk to the door, and greet him with a professional smile. You shake hands and say, good morning, Mr. Ramirez. It's a pleasure to meet you. As you guide him to the chair, you politely offer, may I take your coat? Would you like a glass of water before we begin? When the client sits down, you ask, how may I address you? Would you prefer Mr. Ramirez or simply Carlos? These polite phrases may seem small, but they are powerful. They create respect, comfort, and trust right at the start of the meeting. In today's lesson, we will learn how to use them confidently and how modal verbs like may, could, and would make your English sound professional. Let's start with some very common polite phrases that lawyers use when welcoming a client. The first, may I help you? This is often the very first question you ask when a client arrives. It shows that you are ready to assist them. For example, if a client comes to the reception area looking unsure, you can say, good morning, may I help you? Notice that the phrase uses may, which makes the offer sound formal and respectful. The second phrase is, could I offer you? This is a polite way to make your client feel comfortable. You can complete the sentence with different things. Could I offer you a glass of water? Or could I offer you some coffee? This shows that you are thinking about their comfort, which helps create trust at the beginning of the relationship. The third phrase is, would you like? This is another soft and respectful way to offer something. For example, would you like to sit down? Or would you like to wait in my office? Using would you like makes your offer sound very polite and client-focused. All three of these phrases are short and simple, but when you use them correctly, they make a big difference in how professional and welcoming you sound. Now, let's look at a few more polite phrases that are especially useful in legal situations. The first one is, how may I address you? This question is very important in professional contexts. It allows you to ask how the client prefers to be called by their first name, last name, or by a title such as doctor or professor. For example, you might say, how may I address you? Do you prefer Mr. Gonzalez or Carlos? This shows cultural awareness and respect. The second phrase is, can I ask you to sign here? In legal work, you often need clients to sign documents. Instead of saying, sign here, which sounds direct, you can say, can I ask you to sign here? Or even more politely, could you please sign here? This makes the request softer, but still clear. The third phrase is, could you please take a seat? This is a very polite way to invite a client to sit down. It is better than simply saying, sit down, which sounds too strong. You might use it when a client enters your office. For example, welcome, Miss Lee. Could you please take a seat? It sets the right professional tone at the start of the meeting. Each of these phrases is connected to common situations in law offices, introductions, signing documents, and beginning a consultation. When you use them, you sound both polite and professional. Now, let's review some important titles that show respect when speaking to clients or colleagues. The first ones are Mr., Miss, and Mrs. Mr. is used for men. For example, Mr. Smith. Miss is the most neutral and polite form for women because it does not show if the woman is married or not. For example, Miss Johnson. Mrs. is used for married women, but today many people prefer Miss because it avoids assumptions about marital status. The next title is attorney. In some countries, especially the United States, lawyers are sometimes addressed as attorney and their last name. For example, Attorney Garcia will meet you now. This is formal and respectful. The last title is counselor. This is another professional way to refer to a lawyer, often in court. For example, a judge might say, Counselor, please continue your argument. In some offices, lawyers also introduce themselves as Counselor Lopez. Whenever you are unsure about which title to use, you can ask the polite question, how may I address you? This makes sure you are always respectful and professional. Using titles correctly is especially important in legal contexts because it shows that you respect both the client and the profession. Let's begin with the modal verb can. We often use can to make a simple polite offer or request. For example, can I help you today? Or can I take your coat? When we use can, it is polite, but also direct and clear. It is very common in daily English, and clients understand it easily. However, it is a little less formal than could or may. In legal settings, can is acceptable, but if you want to sound more formal, you may choose other modal verbs. Think of can as your basic polite tool, friendly, clear, and professional. Now let's look at could. When you use could, you make your request softer and more polite. For example, instead of saying sign here, you can say, could you please sign here? This sounds much more respectful. Another example is, could I offer you some water? This shows attention to the client's comfort. In fact, in legal and business settings, could is often preferred over can because it sounds more formal and professional. Clients feel respected when you use could. The modal verb may is one of the most formal ways to ask permission or make an offer. For example, may I ask a few questions? Sounds very respectful and professional. Another example, may I see your identification, is polite but still firm, and it is often used in formal procedures. May is less common in casual English, but it is perfect in law offices, courts, or when speaking with clients you don't know well. It creates a professional tone of respect. The modal verb would is often used to make polite offers or invitations. For example, would you like a coffee? Or would you like to sit down? Both of these sound soft, respectful, and client focused. Using would shows that you are giving the client a choice. You are not telling them what to do, you are inviting them politely. That makes would very useful in building a friendly and professional atmosphere in client meetings. Now, let's compare the different modal verbs side by side. The direct, the direct command is sit down. This is clear, but it sounds too strong for a client meeting. If you say, can you sit down? This is polite, but still quite direct. Could you please sit down? Now it sounds much more respectful and professional. May I ask you to sit down? This is very formal, the kind of language you might use in court or in a very official setting. Would you like to sit down? Here you are offering a choice. It's soft, polite, and client centered. All of these sentences have the same goal, but the modal verb changes the level of politeness. As a lawyer, you can choose the level that best fits the situation and the relationship with your client. Now, let's practice. We start with 3 direct commands: sit down, give me your ID, wait here. Each one is too strong for a client meeting. Instead, let's make them polite. Would you like to sit down? This turns a command into a gentle invitation. Could you please give me your ID? This sounds professional and respectful while still being clear. May I ask you to wait here for a moment? This uses may to create a very formal and respectful request. By practicing these transformations, you will train yourself to automatically choose polite, professional phrasing instead of direct commands. One of the most professional questions you can ask at the start of a meeting is, how may I address you? This phrase is very important in legal practice because it shows respect for the client's identity. Different clients may prefer different forms of address. Some may want to be called by their last name, others by their first name, and others may expect a professional title such as doctor or professor. For example, how may I address you? Do you prefer Miss Martinez or Dr. Martinez? By asking this question, you avoid mistakes, demonstrate cultural sensitivity, and build immediate trust. It communicates, I want to show you the respect you deserve. The phrase at your service is a polite and professional way to tell the client that you are ready to assist them. In a law office, you might use it when a client thanks you for opening the door, preparing documents, or arranging a meeting. For example, client says, thank you for seeing me today. The lawyer says, of course, I'm at your service. This phrase goes beyond politeness. It shows that your role is to support the client's needs, that you are dedicated to helping them. It creates a tone of respect and professionalism that reassures the client that they are in capable hands. Another useful phrase is please make yourself comfortable. This is often used when you invite a client into your office. The phrase serves two purposes. It is an invitation to sit down and relax, and it communicates that the client should feel welcome and at ease. For example, when a client enters your office, you might say, "Good afternoon, Mr. Lopez. Please make yourself comfortable while I prepare the documents." This phrase is not only polite, but it also helps reduce the formality and nervousness that clients sometimes feel in legal settings. When you use it, you are sending a clear message. This is a safe and respectful space for you. In many cultures, offering refreshments is part of good hospitality, and the legal profession is no exception. The phrase, "May I offer you some refreshments," is a formal and respectful way to make your client feel at home. You can adapt this phrase depending on the situation. "May I offer you some water?" Or, "Would you like some coffee or tea?" For example, "Thank you for coming, Miss Hernandez. May I offer you some water before we begin our meeting?" This phrase does more than offer a drink. It communicates warmth and attentiveness, which are very important in client relationships. Clients often feel nervous about legal matters, and a simple offer of water or coffee shows that you care about their comfort. The final phrase is "I appreciate your time." This is a polite and professional way to thank a client for coming to your office, attending a meeting, or waiting patiently. Time is very valuable, especially in legal practice, and acknowledging that shows respect. For example, "Mr. Diaz, I appreciate your time today. I know your schedule is busy, and I'm grateful you were able to meet with me." This phrase has two benefits. It builds goodwill with the client, and it reinforces that you recognize their effort. Clients feel respected when you value their time, and this strengthens the professional relationship. Let's finish today's class with a different story. This time, imagine your client is Miss Torres, who is visiting your office for the first time. As she arrives, you stand and greet her politely. "Good afternoon, Miss Torres. Welcome to my office." You extend your hand and add, "At your service." This signals that you are ready to assist her in whatever way she needs. Next, you guide her inside and say, "Please make yourself comfortable." This polite phrase invites her to relax, and it creates a warm and professional environment. When she sits down, you ask, "How may I address you? Do you prefer Miss Torres, or would you like me to use your first name, Anna?" This question shows respect for her preference and avoids mistakes. To continue the polite tone, you offer, "Could I offer you some water or coffee before we begin?" Notice how we use the modal verb could to make the offer softer and more respectful. After discussing her legal matter, you close the meeting by acknowledging her effort. "Miss Torres, I truly appreciate your time today. Thank you for meeting with me." In this short story, we used all of today's key tools: polite phrases like, "Please make yourself comfortable," and "Could I offer you some water?" Professional titles such as Miss, modal verbs may, could, would, to soften requests and offers. Legal expressions like "How may I address you?" and "At your service." By using these phrases together, you not only speak correct English, also create an atmosphere of respect and professionalism. This is the foundation of successful client relationships in legal English. Before we finish, let's quickly review everything you learned in today's class. First, you learned polite phrases for client meetings, expressions like, "May I help you?" "Could I offer you some water?" "Would you like to sit down?" and please make yourself comfortable. These phrases help create a respectful and professional atmosphere. Second, you practice using professional titles such as Mr., Miss, attorney, and counselor. Titles are important because they show respect and help you avoid mistakes. Third, we explored modal verbs for politeness: can, could, may, and would. We saw how these small words transform direct commands into polite, professional requests and offers. Fourth, you learned several key legal phrases like how may I address you to ask the client's preferred form of address. At your service to show readiness to help. May I offer you some refreshments to make the client comfortable? I appreciate your time to show respect and gratitude. And finally, you saw how all of these elements come together in a real client meeting story. We practiced greeting Miss Torres, inviting her to sit down, offering refreshments, asking how to address her, and ending with gratitude for her time. By combining vocabulary, grammar, and professional expressions, you are now able to greet and welcome clients in English with confidence, respect, and professionalism. Great work today. You're building the foundation to handle your very first client meetings in legal English. Learning legal English as a beginner can feel challenging, but you don't have to do it alone. That's why we created a complete step-by-step course for lawyers, law students, and legal professionals. Inside our legal English community, you'll find all our video lessons, live weekly sessions where you can practice with me and other lawyers, and a private forum where you can connect with other lawyers and students from across Latin America. If you found this lesson useful and want to keep building your legal English skills, click the link in the description and join our school community today.